At that point in the race, they didn't know. I guess they should have known that Ferrari would fuck up because Ferrari have a long history of fucking up somehow. But at that point, it did look like it was Leclerc's race. So covering off Leclerc did make sense at that point.
Yeah, I think we have to first understand the premise of why they went and did
Because they don't care about
why
Oscar.
they went in that particular direction. And it came down to a very, very simple thing first, because start with the race winners because we don't do it often.
Yeah.
Let's talk
Because
about the biggest.
you're a Norris
question.
fanboy, let's be honest.
Of course I am.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the biggest question. Was Oscar Piastri robbed? No. Was Oscar Piastri sabotaged by McLaren?
Definitely. I think this, from the outset, McLaren is a British team. It wants a British winner. I think this is obvious. You know, and at the end of the day, like, he's going to get no upgrades. He's going to be completely destroyed. Or, I mean, wild idea. Could have just been nothing to lose, gambled on a strategy and worked out. I mean, could be. But it's unlikely. I'd say it's more likely it's McLaren sabotaging, obviously. Yeah.
I mean, the precedence is there. I mean, last season we saw at the very first opportunity where McLaren could have given Lando the advantage. They didn't.
Yeah, that's true.
They could have done it on 12 months back on this very weekend, right? It was Hungarian Grand Prix where they didn't need to switch positions.
Yeah.
Lando could have won and maybe would have had a better hold in the championship.
Yeah.
They didn't do anything.
No.
Then we went to Imola. Not Imola, Monza.
Yeah.
They didn't do anything. They waited until Lando had already been compromised for a few races, and then they were pretty much forced into doing that.
Look, I think
But Lando is their favorite driver.
Yeah.
He's the one who's preferred.
Look, I think anyone who thinks they have a favorite driver is a bit mental, because like they have been the one team that they have gone out of their way not to have a favorite driver. Like no, I don't remember
Annoyingly
any.
so.
Yeah, like I don't remember. No, I kind of love it. I kind of love the way they've set it up where they've actually pitted the drivers against each other in a semi-fair way. You know, like. It's kind of nice. It's kind of refreshing that they've done it, because they could have easily just said, look, guys, like, you know, whoever's leading by X Grand Prix is getting their backing, like most other teams have done in the past. And they haven't done that. And it's been nice. Look, I think, like, jokes aside in this race, this is just how Formula One works.
Was a joke.
Yeah. But this is just how Formula One works out sometimes, that like the irony of if you're not leading, you can take bigger risks. And in that situation, Norris and his team were just able to take the bigger risk, because doing a one stop, like at that point in the race where they called it, people didn't really know how the tires were going to go. They weren't sure how Leclerc would go for the rest of the race. There was a good chance that if Leclerc was quicker, that could have been a losing strategy, especially given how close it was at the end. Like, fair enough. So I don't know. It's just one of those things, isn't it? Like when you're behind, you can take a bigger risk. And the biggest evidence of that is Hungary 2021, when you have the leader sitting on the grid by himself because you don't want to be the one to make the call at the front. You know, this happens all the time.
That wasn't him not taking a risk. That was an own goal, quite simply.
But my point is, like, when you're at the front, it's much harder to gamble than to play the safe strategy. And at that point in the race, they didn't know. I guess they should have known that Ferrari would fuck up, because Ferrari have a long history of fucking up somehow. But at that point, it did look like it was Leclerc's race. So covering off Leclerc did make sense at that point.
Yeah, you know? I think we have to first understand the premise of why they went and did.
Because they don't care about
why
Oscar.
they went in that particular direction. And it came down to a very, very simple thing first, because as soon as the race started, it became clear that Leclerc he could keep Oscar behind and did not really have that much of pressure from him at any point. Even when Oscar was trying to trigger the undercut, Oscar was around 2.5 seconds behind. Couldn't really get closer and have a more, you can say, a challenging gap that wasn't existing. So once that happened, if McLaren also went ahead and did the bread and butter thing with Lando that they had done with Oscar, which is basically just go for a conventional two-stopper. What would have ideally happened was Lando would have been behind, Oscar would have been behind, and if Leclerc did not get Ferrari'd, it would have been the same order. So what they did was they rolled the dice, and I think that was quite evident when Norris was asked, "Should we go for the singles? Should we go for a one-stopper?" And he said, "Yeah, sure. I don't have anything to lose anyway."
Yeah. See, but this is where I think like the main thing is of like the strangeness in Oscar's side of the garage that I think they'll be talking about afterwards, because Oscar was vehemently pointing out, like, I want to fight Lando. Like, I don't care about Leclerc. Because for Oscar, like, even if Leclerc won the race and Oscar finished in second, he still wins on points. And he's, so Oscar was very much focused on, like, I just need to be ahead of Lando. Like, he's focusing on the championship. And Lando, basically, his side of the garage were clearly just focused on Oscar as well. Because it was like, right, Oscar's on the 2-stop. Let's just gamble on the 1-stop. What do you think? Yep, cool. Nothing to lose. Let's go for it. So they were both focused on each other, like, to an extent. But what's strange is, like, Oscar was focused on Lando, but Oscar's engineers and his garage were focused on Leclerc. They were pushing for the win.
Yeah, because McLaren's primary motive is to win the race. The secondary motive is the
it's
championship.
Oscar's garage, because this is how it's been set up, right? You've got the two sides of the garage and then the pit wall jump in. So maybe the pit wall got in and said, like, focus on Leclerc. We want to win the race. But it did sound like, from just an overview point of view, that it was Oscar's garage focusing on getting him the win instead of keeping an eye on what Lando's. Because I just think as soon as Oscar pitted for that, like, as soon as Oscar started talking about pitting to cover off Leclerc, even like Jolie and Palmer and, like, myself thinking about it as well, we're like, well, I mean, Lando might as well gamble on the 1-stop. I mean, what's he got to lose now? Like, he either comes third or fourth. Like, it doesn't. Well, worst case he loses to Russell. Best case he wins. It's worth the gamble. So I don't know. It seems like something Oscar's going to have to maybe talk to his garage about, of like, for the rest of the season, our focus is on beating Lando. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but you can't really, isn't it? Because the first priority for the team, for McLaren, is that they have to win the race. They're not going to compromise on that. Once that goal is settled, it could be either of the two drivers. And
I think that may change in the second half of the season, though, because
maybe
not, because it is McLaren.
They've lost 3 races this season. Just 3 races. It's 14 races now. There are 10 races left. They have the opportunity to put together their greatest Formula 1 season as well. And I don't think they're going to give up on that.
Maybe
and not. They shouldn't.
Maybe not. Yeah.
They shouldn't. And that is something which is probably a bit of a hindrance for them.
So you think it's the pit wall where pressuring Oscar to win the race as opposed to, like, letting Oscar deal with Lando, basically?
But I don't think how do you think Oscar could have dealt with Lando in that case?
Well, no, my point is, at that point when he was called in, like, to come in again.
When the first pit stop.
This was on the second one, I think, where they were like, do you want to extend, try to get to the end? Which maybe he couldn't have. That's fine. But he basically...
it wasn't possible.
I don't think
he was losing around more than a second a lap to...
Okay. I think it was the second one, right? Where he was asked, like, should we cover off Leclerc?
At the start of the second stint, after the first pit stop, Oscar was asked if he wanted to go to the end, and he was not sure that it could happen.
No, there was a point, because it was literally, I remember it was immediately like, we're thinking of boxing to cover off Leclerc, and he said, I don't care about Leclerc, I care about Norris.
Okay, so this happened when Lando had pitted.
Right.
Because once Lando pitted, you had the case where he was, I think 17, 18 seconds behind.
Yeah.
But the problem with the entire situation was, now in this stage, Oscar is kind of boxed. Either he can go for the win, which is basically, he can... at that particular situation, if he pits, he's going to come out behind Lando with 2 to 3 laps fresher tires. And in that case, it's done. There's nothing he can do.
Yeah.
The second case is he can either he can extend his stint and then have an offset, which he did ultimately. The third is he just goes to the end.
Yeah.
Now, first, what they tried to do is they tried to go to the end. But since the tires were degrading at a very, very rapid rate and the gap was just being eaten up by Lando, and at that point they just made the call that, okay, let's go for the 2-stop. That's just how it played out. And I don't think it was a case of favoritism or anything. Ideally,
no, it was literally just Lando was in the position to gamble. I think, like, it's as simple as that, because when you're in, like, F1 just puts drivers in these positions quite a bit where, like, Lando was just in the position of, like, he had dropped down to 4th. Like, I think Lando, if he had because he got a good start. Even
if he was 3rd, I think it would have still stayed the same. I don't think it would have been much change.
Maybe, yeah. But my point is, like, if Lando had
would have won
jumped
by a bigger distance.
but if he had jumped Oscar at the start, for example, because he got a good launch off, he made the silly error of like boxing himself in, basically. Which is, as soon as he went that way, I was like, oh, Russell's going to box you in. Like, what are you doing? But
the Ocon Alonso thing in 2022.
But also, it's just like, right? As soon as he went to the right, it was like, what are you doing? Like,
he basically
Russell's going to box you in. Like, you're screwed now, and inevitably Russell and Alonso went around the outside of him.
Yeah.
I think if that hadn't happened and he had have like managed to get the good start but position it right and get around Oscar, it probably would have just gone the other way around. You know, like it probably would have been Oscar would have just said, well, let's go for a one stop. I want to win. I want to beat Lando. So, yeah, I don't know. I just don't think there's any. I think this is just Formula One. People get really annoyed about it and have to make it some emotional narrative. And it's like, no, it's just literally they're calling strategies. And as soon as he was in that position, that became the better strategy for where he was. You know, like it's as simple as that. There's no like big like, oh, well, they clearly don't care about or Oscar. It's like they do.
Also,
they
to be fair, if Leclerc did not have the huge drop off in performance, I think Leclerc would have overtaken Norris
probably
much easily.
And he had better straight line speed in general as well.
That's right.
Yeah. Whereas for Oscar, it was, I think like that chase at the end was interesting. It was fun. It was exciting between the two McLarens. But part of me constantly thought Oscar's not going to get by here because the two cars didn't have that much of an offset. Yeah, it was just like part of me was thinking it's going to end up in a crash. The main reason was it was like roughly 0.6 of a second he was catching him, right? But as you're doing that, I'm like, right, the tires are wearing more because you're pushing more, right? So by the time you catch him, your tires aren't going to be that much better than Lando's. They'll be better, but not that much. Now you're in the dirty air, you're in the same car. You're probably down to maybe 0.3 of a second behind him in difference. You've got the DRS, but like the difference between the two cars is going to be much less. And generally you need like either a proper lunge or like a second offset to like dive down each other. And Lando seemed to be in the last couple of races since the upgrade, like the suspension upgrade, seems to be more confident on the brakes. So it's not like he was like braking really early like he had been earlier in the season. So I kind of expected that lunge from Oscar, which he did. He tried it. But I was kind of like, I wonder, will this be the race where Oscar crashes in trying to get by?
They're going to have one very soon.
Yeah, I think so.
Like, if they continue battling.
I think Oscar was probably hoping that Lando would see him coming and dive out of the way. But it seems like Lando either didn't see him or doesn't care. Because that's been a couple of times now where Lando's just like, I'm not moving.
Yeah, if they crash, I think... And if Oscar is the one who's actually caused the crash, I think the consequences are going to be dire. I don't think Lando is going to take it lying down.
No.
And I don't think McLaren is going to take it lying down because all the cards are in their favor, isn't it? I think the way Oscar overtook Leclerc, I think that made me think that, okay, the speed is too much. And early in
But his offset to Leclerc was a lot bigger.
It's not even that. I think Leclerc was... According to George, they had a power mode setting where he was basically pulling off in terms of the speed was reducing drastically before the breaking point. Because that's where the plank wear is the most. So the difference.
So they think it was to do with plank wear, basically.
Yeah, we'll get to that as well. Yeah. They've revealed it to a large extent already. Yeah. So
that's why people on Twitter were giving out showing pictures of Russell scraping the ground, and they were like, "Yeah, he's the one without the plank wear or whatever." Okay,
pretty much
that makes sense. Yeah. I was editing something about the massage straight after the Grand Prix, so I haven't been looking at the details.
Watch out, guys! the Massad documentary.
Massad Epstein.
Interested in Epstein.
It's not a documentary; it's just a podcast. It's like it's not podcast. It's the Jason Hassett show.
Video.
Yeah. It's my new Jason Hassett show. Yeah. Check it out. Anyway.
Coming back to this. Just one thing. Do you think Oscar bottled it in any which way?
No, I think just sometimes the roll of the dice goes against you, and like he tried everything to make up for it. It was just, I think McLaren made the right call at the right time, but unfortunately things just went against them. I think they were very much looking for the win. They were trying to cover off Leclerc. That meant that, Lando was in a position where, like, for all the thing is, look at it was 0.7 at the end when they came over the line, right? For all we know, those tires could have dropped off dramatically on Lando's one stop, and he could have like ended up second in the race, right? And then it would have been like, well, that one stop was a silly idea, So like, it's always the case where you can gamble, and if it works out, it's like, oh, well, the other side made a mistake. Or you gamble, it doesn't work out, and you're like, well, they should have gone on the 2-stop. You know, like it. So I just think this is one of those things where it's just a roll of the dice.
So just to sum it all up, it wasn't. He wasn't sabotaged, and there was literally no scenario in which I
also
didn't
credit
think there was
credit to Lando as well. He's drove a brilliant race, like, you know,
for a change. I hope people give him credit because he didn't bottle.
He didn't technically bottle the start either. He was in a boxed off position where I do think he should have, because he's done that a couple of times now, and I think he needs to review it and go like, right, I'm not going to box, because he constantly loves to do that. Like,
honestly,
he instinctually boxes into the grass to try and get by on the inside, and he constantly does it, and it never works out for him. So I'm hoping he kind of goes.
I think the initial move from him, which I think was the wrong one, which was that he was trying to get into the slipstream of Charles.
Yeah.
But as soon as that happened, he got a bit of a jump.
Yeah.
Oscar moved over, and inside is not probably the place where you want to be when it comes to Hungary.
No, on that track, the corner's too tight, so you're just going to take someone out or take yourself out. It's not really
exactly. So overall, I think still it's a good race.
9 points between them now. You know,
how is this championship even going to be decided?
I think this is the fun thing though, because like, was it Austria where they got the upgrade for Lando? Like,
Canada.
Was it Canada where he got the suspension upgrade?
Yeah.
Because it was like, up until that point, it very much did seem to me like, okay, Oscar's got this, because Lando just constantly all over the place, making mistakes and so on. Lando, I think, is still not as good at overtaking, not as mentally strong as Oscar, but I will say this, like, it feels like now Lando's got the pace and feel back. And I think that could go a long way for him, you know, over the season. So I think this could be a closer battle than I think it will be. I still would put my money on Oscar winning, but I do think it's going to be a lot closer over the season than I originally thought it would be at the start. Or like, say 5 or 6 races ago, I thought it was just going to swing dramatically in Oscar's favor. But I think that upgrade and that feel that he has back for the car again means that, you know, there will be a lot of days where Oscar just won't be as fast, or, you know, Lando will just be able to kind of eke things out where Oscar can't. Because it does seem like Lando's still a little bit better on tyres than Oscar is. Not by much. It's much closer. But like, those tiny amounts can really help.
The gap is nothing between the two right now. Which is interesting because now there are no tracks which you can say that this is Lando's track, this is Oscar's track. That kind of thing is gone, which is a bit weird because usually there are drivers that have their inherent strengths and weaknesses. Here it seems that it all has just morphed into one, because until this weekend Lando had not been out-qualified by a teammate in Hungary. Here he was. And I think until Friday it seemed that Lando was the stronger driver. On Saturday it was just flipped on its head, where Oscar just took the lead. I don't know. I'm so surprised because there doesn't seem to be a clear trend that is emerging. It's basically a they are operating on very, very tiny margins, where if something works for one driver, he wins. If something works for the other driver, they take the lead. It's becoming such a continued cycle now, which is...
It's great, though. It's great. Because honestly, like, how many times have we had a dominant car before? Because this is now the dominant car. Like, you know, maybe not as much as the RB19, but it's still pretty dominant.
What are you talking about? RB19 was the 7th fastest car.
Sorry, my bad, yeah. But like it doesn't have a 7/10 race advantage like the RB19 did. It's probably a 10th or 2, maybe a bit more, depending on the track. Miami, for example, was a massive outlier, you know. But like, it's very rare that we get a car that is the clear fastest, where we have 2 drivers that can compete with each other. So at least we're getting that. At least it's interesting, because that just doesn't happen all the time. Like, normally,
I think that's the good bit about it, that we have a scenario where, and I think that's why I'm partially hoping that Mercedes has a strong, if there is a team that ends up emerging as the dominant one, I hope it's the Mercedes power unit, because then you'll have Oscar, Lando on one side, you have George, Kimi on the other. So at least you have a highly talented pair going back and forth. It's not a case of you have
Pinto.
Sure. By the way, he's also improving. He's
Yeah, yeah.
also getting his shit together,
He beat
finally
Gasly in qualifying for
quite
the first
handily.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Not first time. This was his third time.
Beating
He's
Colapinto
had a
in
strong
qualifying?
yeah. He's had a strong weekend in Canada as well. And
Oh,
there's
did he
one more
beat?
that I'm
Oh,
not
yeah,
sure.
he beat him in qualifying in Canada. Yeah,
He
yeah.
beat him
My bad.
qualifying and in the race, both of them.
Yeah.
So he's had his moment. I'm happy for him.
The car is shit as well, though. Like, it's really just a shit box. So it's just.
Yeah, they've pretty much invested all of their money and everything on 2026.
Yeah.
So makes
Which
sense.
I didn't think they would do. But anyway, it's a different conversation. Let's, yeah.
We'll get to that. The thing is, when I talk about this season, there are 10 races left and I have no clue which way it will go.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's also probably the championship, which the word that kids use, which lacks the Riz factor that was quite common in the last few years.
Yeah.
Because neither of them are the imposing personalities, and neither of them have the kind of presence that a Max or a Lewis or an Alonso or a Vettel, all of these guys did. I think that is something which I've seen a lot of people say that this is probably one of the title fights which they are very disinterested in, which is a bit of a disservice because the quality of racing is good.
Do you know, though, I think it's kind of nice, though, because, like, honestly, generally speaking, it's a much more clear-cut one for me, because normally we're getting like a world champion versus a non-world champion. And generally, in that case, I want the non-world champion to win because I like the underdog pretty much always. But this year, it's exciting for me because either way, someone becomes a new world champion. So I don't care. It's like, this is. Plus, honestly, I have to say, I keep going back to it, but how McLaren are handling this, I hated how McLaren handled things last year, because last year they had a clear number one driver, right? Like, not to bash Oscar, but Lando was just way better than Oscar last year overall, right? Oscar was a bit better at, like, racecraft moves and maybe starts or whatever, but just generally speaking, Lando was much better.
Lando.
And for me, Formula One is about maximizing everything. So it was always like, guys, like, just back Lando for this season. Tell Oscar you'll have his back next year if you want, whatever. But, like, back Lando this season. Like, what are you doing? Like, put everything behind this.
They fumbled the championship last season.
Yeah, win both championships. Because people say, oh, well, Lando lost 63 points or whatever it was. It's like, yeah, sure. And McLaren lost 130-something points. So they could have won the championship if McLaren had not fucked up, basically. But they just didn't seem to care. However, I do have to say, all credit to McLaren. How they're handling it this year with the two drivers is beautiful. I love the idea of pitting the garages against each other. It's genius. And I hope they hold to it the whole way through the season.
That's why that's one of the primary reasons I'm not giving them that much credit, because I think at the start of the season they realized that the Constructors' Championship is not going anywhere.
Yeah.
They knew that their driver was going to win the championship. So they're just letting them do this.
Yeah,
there's going to come a point next season. Yeah, but the thing is, when they are operating at an easy mode in Formula 1.
So next year, if there's like a bigger competition,
when things heat up, when there are going to be cases where you have to pick one driver over the other, that's where you'll have to have the uncomfortable conversations.
And also, next year is going to be interesting because one of these drivers will be a world champion next year. And that world champion is going to be like, well, I deserve preferential treatment, because that's how world champions feel all the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, next year will be interesting. But this year, look, at least we're getting a title fight. It was one of the things that 2023 we all complained about, right? Why doesn't Max have a closer teammate, give us a title battle? You know, like, it would have been great if in 2023 we had a title battle between even the two teammates. So at least we're getting that.